Hello class, welcome. So we are now moving on to module 3, and I wanted to come on to just discuss a little bit about what we're talking about within module 3 with chapters 4 and 5, as well as kind of go over the presentation rubric that I posted. To date, I've only received one correspondence stating and identifying who's working with who with the group member. So I'm going to ask that you get your name. What's today? Wednesday? If by next Monday, if I do not have names of who you are interested in working with, I will assign groups by Monday. I will assign who you're working with next Monday. So if you are, or if you've been conversing with someone on the discussion board, or maybe shoot someone a private message just to see if they're interested in working with you. If you have an idea of an ethical issue that you are interested in and working on, and see if they're interested as well. Couple things before we go before I get started, just briefly talking about some of the things in chapter 4 and 5, because you have your midterm this week, which tried to offset that since we're covering 2 chapters a week. Try to get your midterm early this week, because typically you'll be taking midterms next week in the majority of your other classes. So hopefully it didn't feel too burdensome when you open it up and you're like, midterm. Your midterm, I do not provide a study guide, because your midterm is comprised of all of your previous quizzes you've already taken. So with that being said, if you've only taken the quiz once, and let's say you scored really well, so you didn't take it for a second attempt, there is a possibility that you may see questions on the midterm that you have not seen, as opposed to if you've taken every attempt on your quiz, then you've seen every question possible with that. And that is the reason why I put in that chapter 5 quiz, but it's not a graded assignment, just so you can go through and see what type of questions and what we're looking for when you see your midterm, so it's just not like a total shock. So just wanted to address that real quick as far as like a study guide or preparing for the midterm. Your study guide is actually your previous quizzes that you've taken. That's your study guide to prepare for your midterm. With that being said, I want to highlight a couple things. When you send an email to me, it's very important that you put the course and the section number. And actually the easiest way to do that, I'm going to walk it through while I'm talking to you, so I'm looking down under course tools. So once you're in Blackboard, if you go over to your left hand side and scroll all the way down to tools, you'll see a tab that says tools there. Let's see, and under tools, send an email, and to all instructors or instructor user, and my name will come up, and that message is right there. If you actually use that built-in feature on Blackboard, the course and section number will pre-populate when you send that email. So let's say if your subject was hello, it would say CJC 212-1901 hello. I will know what course you're in, because right now I'm receiving a lot of emails from different students, different classes, and you have a question and it may say, hey, I can't get into module 1 or question number 2, but you don't tell me what class you're in. And then I'm like, well, that this prolongs me getting a response to you. So again, when you email me, I need to know the class and the section. Don't just say CJC 212, because I teach a 212 face-to-face and online. So the course CJC 212 in the section 1901, or if you're CJC 111, and whatever it is. So just for that, to help me expedite responding to your emails, because a lot of times you send me a question and my next email is, what class are you referring to? Then you have to wait another day for me to respond once you send that back and go back. So just try to get that done. Alright, so in module 3, you've noticed that we're going into chapters 4 and 5, which are very interesting topics that we start talking about. One is because we're talking about becoming an ethical individual. That's basically what this chapter discusses, right? How to become a moral individual. And in this chapter, it's not necessarily saying that one way or another is wrong per se, in the sense that it talks about theories, a theory about why or how someone is or develop their morality per se, why they perceive it to be good or not. Kohlberg's stages of moral development outlines those different stages. So like stage 1 and 2 are clumped together under the pre-conventional level, 3 and 4 under the conventional level, and then we go down and subsequently from that. So within that, it's actually looking at different rationales of what individuals are looking at when you're making a moral decision. When we start talking about theories, and we won't go a lot into theories because you talk about criminological theories in criminology, but it's basically just that it's a theory as to how and why people act and do the things that they do. So if someone was to engage in, let's say, unethical or immoral behavior, what has caused them to do that? In chapter 2, we outlined ethical systems, right? So we talked about 7 different ethical systems and what they use. Those moral rules have already prescribed as far as what they use to say what is good or what is bad. So you looked at ethical formalism, ethics of virtue, utilitarianism, the ethics of care. So when we're going through, and egoism, when we're going through those, that actually gives you that framework. Okay, well, this system says what is good is what benefits the majority. So you have utilitarianism, Jeremy Bentham, and then it goes on and it says, when you have act utilitarianism, when we're just looking at that action, it's an isolated incident when we're only judging that action, versus rule when you look and say, okay, do we want this to become like the precedent? Do we want them to make this the exception? So this will be forever and a day how we judge whether it's the greatest good for the greatest number. So when you're looking at that, just understanding when you start talking about theories in moral growth and actually what it is, and when you talk about teaching ethics and what we're saying, and that corruption custodian with that. In reading this chapter, there was one recent case study that came up, and I think you could actually use that in this class, although it's not necessarily criminal justice, but you could use this case study to look at and evaluate the moral behavior that was there. And that's the superintendent who's actually, I guess it could be criminal justice. She was charged for using her insurance for a child that was not hers. So when you look at that, again, with the facts that we are privy to, meaning what the news has been reported and the information we have, we don't have all of it, but from the information that we have, we know that the superintendent, there was a child that was ill, missed some days of school. Superintendent went to the home. Upon arrival, noticed that the child was ill. Allegedly, she first ensured that the child had been eating, and that was it. And then they said the child had signs of strep throat. Well, the superintendent said, motherly instincts kind of kicked in. She knows the repercussions of untreated strep. So she took the child, with or without parents' knowledge. I think the way it's written, with parents' knowledge, took the child to one medical facility. They refused to see the child. Took the child to another facility. At which time she identified this child as her child, so that health insurance would be covered because the child's family did not have health insurance. So when you look at that and you say, was that wrong or was that bad? That moral behavior, what kind of behavior was that? I think in chapter 4, it's easy to look at that and actually outline and say, okay, well, yes, that's bad because of this or because of that, looking underneath there. So with chapter 4, make sure the PowerPoints in and of itself would not suffice. Make sure you read chapter 4. If you have questions, make sure you reach out to me. Do not be afraid to ever send me a question. I'm definitely here for that. Or if, so just don't be afraid. Chapter 5 moves into the roles of police in society. So in this chapter, we said, what is the role? Why do we have law enforcement? Right? You have one which says public orders, to keep public order. Then you have one that says the police or law enforcement serves as public servants. Well, what are the difference when you see public order and public service? You're going to outline like the crime fighter image. They're here to get tough on crime. Public servants are here to serve us and work with us. Under those, then you have 2 separate orientations that come, and that's the due process orientation and the crime control orientation. So those, and in that chapter, we're really looking at the purpose of law enforcement, how we view them, what is community policing, the ethical issues involved with community policing with that, and kind of the social contract we have. A big thing, and I usually say this in class, and I'm not saying that it's always true, but discretion can lead to corruption. Discretion can lead to corruption. And in this chapter, I think it highlights why or how that discretion can inadvertently or advertently lead to corruption. So we're going to look and talk about that within this chapter, and then talk about like that police subculture that's present there, and how that also presents different ethical issues in and of itself. So I just wanted to come on really quick to give you just a brief little nutshell of, you know, chapters 4 and 5, what you're looking at, making sure that you read chapters 4 and 5. Do not depend solely on the PowerPoints for 4 and 5, especially as you're going in to your midterm. Additionally, I did post that let me go here. I did post the rubric for you for your group presentation. I'm going to just open that really quick because I know some of you can't or weren't able to join the live chat, and I did get a couple of requests to record them. I typically do not record the live chats. One, students don't like to be recorded, and then they become kind of gun shy per se as far as asking questions when they know it's later, and sometimes they feel like they can't just be themselves and, you know, let's ask questions and not. But definitely, if you ever have questions, send me an email. So your group presentation, just going through this really quick as far as what I'm looking for. Your ethical system, where now you know the difference between an ethical issue and an ethical dilemma. You're identifying an ethical issue. Along with that, you're doing two ethical systems. If you select religion as one of your ethical systems, you will have to use two under religion. So for example, if you're doing abortion and you say you want to use religion as against abortion, you have to select two types, right? And then, and let's say you're doing that for or against, and then you're going to select another ethical system to support it. Ethics of care, whatever it may be. So who's responsible for that ethical system based off of the moral rules associated with the ethical system? So the moral rules, again, are basically the guidelines. When you in chapter 2, it said, what is ethical formalism? Ethical formalism is made up of, you know, what is the categorical imperatives? Like, that's what you're doing. You're basically telling us everything about those ethical systems. Your visual impact for the online class, I don't want just your PowerPoint and text, but to incorporate maybe some videos with it, some graphics, but that should not be the dominant thing on your PowerPoint. So I shouldn't have a PowerPoint that has like 50 pictures in there, but, you know, pictures or videos or links somehow that ties into what you're discussing. The material you have to ensure that you have is the introduction, your history, statistics are going to be very important, and issues concerning. So if you're talking about abortion, for example, what is the issue surrounding abortion? What are we talking about in today's society with that? If you're talking about legalizing marijuana, what are the issues surrounding that, for and against it? You need to actually identify that and have at least 5 well-researched issues. So it's not you just coming up with something, you're researching. This is a research presentation, so you need to have your issue, you've researched it, what is being said about this, why is legalizing marijuana, or how is it benefiting either individuals, the economy, the health industry, however, whatever it is, the look that you're looking at. Expertise, so demonstrating an understanding of the material. When I read your PowerPoint, I will send questions. I may send you a question. Can you explain it back to me? When you're reading it, your PowerPoint is not just you. When you research, it should not just be like you're researching, you copy and pasting it into that information, but you're putting this in your own words and what it clearly expressed. APA format. So again, not just copied and paste. You're referencing where you got your information from. Creativity, again, how and what you're doing, how you decide to present this. In the online class, I've had students do different things as far as creativity. Again, it's kind of some give me points per se for you. Case study, so you need to make sure you have a case study. A case study means something that has happened surrounding your topic that's been in the news or the media that you can discuss and talk about to help support and oppose. So you need at least 2 case studies, because remember, you're supporting and opposing this same topic, so you would need at least 2 case studies highlighting whatever it is that you're talking about with that. I will post an example for you I should try to get that this week. I thought I had it on my computer here, but I can't seem to find my example ones that I used last semester. But I will post an example for you. Again, I would encourage you to start working on this early, because I will review them. If you send them to me prior to submission, I'll definitely review and give you feedback. However, the last 2 weeks of the class, Module 7 and 8, I won't be reviewing. Module 6 will be the last week I will accept PowerPoint presentations to review, and you would just email that to me if you were interested in having me do a preliminary review before your final submission. I think that's pretty much it. I don't want to take up a lot of your time, because you're probably sitting here like, okay, what is she talking about now, right? That's it. I just wanted to come on and give you a quick update on that, briefly talk about 4 and 5. You will see I've also I've also opened the next 2 modules, so feel free to work ahead if you would like on those modules. So if you have any other questions, concerns, feel free to shoot me an email or call me, or you can stop by the office. Stopping by the office, probably let me know, because I'm in and out of classes, but definitely shoot me an email or call. So I will talk to you guys later. You guys have a great weekend.